The following is a video tutorial for how to create the straight track piece for the model miniature train. So first off, I'd like to start out by looking at some of the documentation that Project Lead the Way has provided for us. And one of the things that I noticed upon studying these different diagrams here is that there is a conflicting dimension. It is the track rail depth that we see along here, and it's actually noted in this view here and in this view here. It's kind of funny because we see a depth here for the track of 0.1875, so the distance between here to there. In this view, we see that it says it's giving us the reverse dimension, so from the bottom to the beginning of that track piece is 0.75. Okay, well then if the thickness is 1.0, that would reason to say that the difference would be 0.25. And that just simply isn't so, because it's saying over here that it's 0.1875. So we have some conflicting dimensions. What I would like to do, and what I have done and updated the eye properties to say for this part, is that we're going to go with this number over here, this 0.1875. So we're going to go with a little bit of a shallower track depth. Alright, now that we got that aside, Project Lead the Way has also updated a few of the other dimensions for this year. One of the things that they have changed with the new curriculum release is that these connectors, this part over here, the radius for this is a 0.7, on this side it's a 0.75. In years previous, they were actually the same number, 0.75. They've actually staggered this one a little bit to make it a little bit smaller in order to accommodate for some tolerances in terms of when we go to insert this into this side when we're putting an assembly together. So they changed some of the numbers. Another one of the numbers that I had noticed had changed for this year was this radius. It is now a 0.19. Of course, that's going to be on the inside corners here, both on this side, 2 here, and 2 on this side. And then of course we have our overall part length of 12 inches and a thickness of 1 inch and a width here of 3.4 inches. So that's actually where I'm going to get started first. I'm going to go over to Inventor real quick here and just show you a finished part. I have put this part together with the updated dimensions. It's pretty simple to make. We basically have this first sketch here. Alright, and you can see those numbers and the locations of these pegs and all that. And we extrude that at 1 inch. Of course, that'd be the thickness for our track piece. And then we make another sketch on the back side of our part with these little, we place some rectangles here, dimensions of 0.35 and 0.188. It's actually 0.1875. If I click that number here, you can see it's 0.1875. And then of course that is a distance of 0.4 from this corner to this corner here, and on both sides. Alright, once you have finished that sketch, you will then extrude it all the way through the part, and then that is it. And then of course set your material to ABS plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and create this part step by step for you. First I'm going to start off by saying new part, English tab, standard inch, IPT, create. I'll then create a 2D sketch, and I like to start off on this XZ plane, this flat plane right here. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to pan over a little bit, getting my center point origin over down in the lower left hand side. And I'm going to lay down a rectangle first. I'm going to click at the origin point and drag up and out to the right, and then type in 12 inches on the top, and then hit tab on my keyboard to switch to the other dimension, which I would like to be 3.4 inches. Once I have that number typed in, I hit enter, and here we have the beginning of our profile. I'm going to jump back to my other original created part. This is what we are going for, so I'm going to basically recreate this on our new part. Alright, I need to first, I will start over here and create this cutout section here for the connector. If we go ahead and look at our documentation, they actually have a little cutaway view here of a closer up detail of what that would look like. This is the outside portion over here. This is the inside one that I'm going to create now. Basically what we're going to be concerned with is laying down a circle that has a diameter of 1.5 inches. This 0.75 is the radius, so a circle of 1.5 inches, and then we will locate it at 1 inch off the edge here to the center, and 0.17 inches from this center to this edge here, and then at which point I will then make some lines and offset them at a distance of 0.65, and then trim up and cut out and extrude that portion. So I'm going to jump back over to Inventor here. So again, I'm going to start off laying down a circle first, 1.5 inches in diameter. I will then dimension that circle into place. That dimension here will be 1 inch. And from the center point to the outside line here, I'm looking for 1.7. I had actually placed it on that midpoint line originally, so that dimension is fine just the way it is. Now I will first place a line from the center point and just drag it out at any old distance past this line here. And then what I'm going to do is use my offset tool to then select this line and offset it at any given distance. And then I'm going to come back in and dimension this line to that original line and say that that distance needs to be offset at 0.325, and then do the exact same thing to the other side, 0.325. And now I can trim away everything I don't need anymore, and I will have this side all wrapped up. I'm actually going to delete this middle line first because I don't even need it there. I'll just make trimming a little bit easier, and I can trim all of these edges out like so. The next thing here will then just be to add that fillet around this edge here. Again, that new number for this here is going to be a 0.19. Then I'll select this portion of the curve and then this straight line here, and again on the other side to finish that off. Alright, well, I have this side of the sketch completed. I will now go over to the other side, and I'm going to go take a look at my documentation. And we have the same location for the hole this time from the edge, just going in the other direction off the part at 1.0 from center to this edge here, 1.7 from the center to this edge here. And then of course remember that we are now changing the radius from 0.7. And likewise, another change I forgot to mention earlier is that the distance between the flats inside of here is going to be 0.6, whereas up here it was 0.65. So I'm going to go ahead and start to make this portion. We'll lay down a circle first. It will be a 1.4 inch diameter circle. I'll then dimension it properly from center to here at 1 inch. Wait, actually, what I need to do, so I'm going to select the center point of the circle and drag it to the outside. That'll just make it easier to dimension. Now I can go from center to this line here, drop it down and say 1 inch. And then from the center to this line here at 1.7. Okay. Again, I will take a line from the center and bring it into the part. I'll then offset that line in both directions, top and bottom, and then come back and dimension that distance. We had said that the distance between flats was 0.6, so if we cut that number in half, it'll be 0.3. So dimension both of these sides to 0.3. And then again, it's the same process, just clean up. So I'm going to delete this line first, and then trim out what I don't need. And there you have it. Now I need to fillet these edges inside of here. 0.19. And at which point my sketch has now been completed. I will then say finish sketch. Hit my home icon here to zoom me out a little bit. Next, I can extrude that profile upwards at 1 inch and say OK. And lastly, I will then need to create the rectangle profiles on the back side here to extrude them through the part and forward. First what I'm going to do is I'm going to project the geometry on this side so I can get both of those yellow boxes that you see here. I will then create my rectangles inside this area here. The numbers for this need to be 0.35 along the bottom, and on the side it needs to be 0.1875. Just going to go back here and double check those numbers, and that is what we're looking for. If we do the math here, the difference is 0.35 and 0.1875. Once I have that rectangle created, I'll actually do this other side over here as well. So 0.35 along the bottom, hit tab on my keyboard and type in 0.1875. And now I'm going to dimension both of these profiles into place. I will select the top line and the top line here, place that dimension and say it should be 0. I will then go sideline to this sideline here, and of course that needs to be 0.4. I'll do the exact same thing to the other side. 0. Drop it down and 0.4. At which time I can now say finish sketch. And then I will simply extrude both of those profiles and cut them away from the body and set my extents here to all. They will then be pushed all the way through the part. I can then say OK. And we have our completed straight track piece. Real quickly, I'd like to double check my eye properties. Switch over to the physical tab. I do need to set my material here, so I'm going to change that to ABS plastic. And here we have our numbers that have been generated. I'm looking at a mass of 0.1494, an area of 128.580, and a volume of 39.012. So I'm going to jump over and then check my eye properties, and those are the exact same numbers that I have. So 1.494 pounds, an area of 128.58, and a volume of 39.012. So I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to like or comment if you so choose to. And thank you for watching.